Just after 6 p.m. on Saturday, August 25, 2001, Aaliyah boarded a Cessna charter plane bound for Opelika, Florida.
I noticed this aircraft taking off. I noticed the pitch of the attitude when he rotated. It caught my eye, so I just watched him.
There was no cause for worry or alarm, just a short flight like any other. Aaliyah and 7 other people involved in the production of her Rock the Boat music video were eager to return to the States after a long weekend in the Bahamas. Volunteer firefighter Claude Sawyer was working at the Marsh Harbor Airport that evening and saw Aaliyah's plane take off.
When he initiated his gear up, I seen the gears coming up, and then it was moments after that I just observed the aircraft go into the left bank and then go in a nose down attitude, and at that point I lost him because he got below the trees, and then I noticed a ball of fire, and at that point I knew that plane was down.
Pilot Edric Simonet had just landed his own airplane at Marsh Harbor Airport.
I was on my way home. I got a phone call that there had been a plane crash, and everyone started calling and asking me, was it me? At that time, after the first phone call, I turned around, came back to the airport to see if there was any way I could help.
That afternoon, it was 2 other volunteer firemen that happened to be at the airport at the same time as me, not in my location, but I heard them on the radio. So they rushed to the crash site while I went to get assistance, and then it just went into place after that. We got there in minutes. We had a truck on scene.
The aircraft itself was 50 feet off of the runway itself in, I would say, knee-deep swamp water.
At the point when we got there, we knew who was living and who was deceased.
Abaco Island chief counselor and trained pilot Silbert Mills was alerted and rushed to the scene.
When I arrived, they had already informed me that 6 persons had been known to perish and that 3 were still lingering and clinging on for life.
Volunteer firefighter David Ralph arrived on the scene approximately 15 minutes after the crash.
The plane was split along the side, and on the right side was a severe burned area in the ground, and most of the victims were in that area.
They died by fire, and thankfully they died instantly. I don't know what kind of consolation that is, but they died instantly.
Among the 6 who died on impact was Aaliyah. Rescue workers scrambled to stabilize the 3 people who initially survived the crash, including Aaliyah's stylist, Anthony Dodd, and her bodyguard, Scott Gallen.
The bodyguard, he was alert. He actually crawled out of the aircraft.
Volunteer firefighter Colin Albery.
And Scott says, don't worry about me. Make sure everybody else is okay first. The man was a superman. He wanted to get up and walk out of there. And I had to literally, I'm 6'2", 280 pounds, restrain him. I had to tell him, Scott, just relax. Let us take care of you.
As one survivor succumbed to injuries, Anthony Dodd and Scott Gallen were rushed to a small clinic near Marsh Harbor Airport.
This is not something we're generally equipped to deal with. It's not a hospital, it's a little clinic.
The most we can do here is to stabilize the patient and then airlift that patient to a more suitable trauma center, which would be Nassau and or Freeport.
I went to my aircraft, pre-flighted, got the fuel in, and was ready to go right away.
Bodyguard Scott Gallen was placed aboard Simonet's plane.
His vitals were good. I said, before they closed the door, I said, Scott, we'll see each other later. He said, all right, bud, I'll talk to you later. And they took off.
He kept asking for water, and we gave him a drink of water. And 5 minutes after that, I turned around and he had passed on. The nurse was trying to resuscitate him. She spent the remainder of the flight giving him CPR and trying to get a pulse and get him breathing again. But when we arrived at Nassau, the ambulance attendant, he came out and he said, no, it's too late, he's already gone.
A few hours later, Anthony Dodd, the last survivor of the crash, passed away before he was to be airlifted to a Miami hospital. News of the tragedy already reached those who had worked on Aaliyah's music video.
My first reaction was my family. My family's gone. This is crazy, He was supposed to be the people that I grow old with. You know, it was all worked out. It was all worked out. You know, we were definitely supposed to grow old together.
Investigators arrived on Abaco Island to examine the wreckage of Aaliyah's plane. The exact cause of the crash was still unknown.
They were on the scene taking photographs. They were measuring the positioning of seats and other items that were on the scene. And the following morning, Monday, we had a team from the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, and the FAA.
Of prime concern was the amount of weight placed on such a small plane.
Weight and balance is a critical factor for aviation. It's just the way you load the airplane that can cause you to have a problem. Certainly weight is a factor. Airplanes are designed with a maximum load capacity, and you are supposed to, as a pilot, adhere to those maximum limitations.
I think from what I saw, there was excess baggage on board and bodies. There's a lot of people. If you figure it, there's 9 people on board. You have baggage, camera equipment. You have a full tank of fuel to get back to Opalaco. I mean, there could have been an oversight there. I don't know.
If anyone on that plane knew that it was too heavy, or there was too much stuff on there, that they either wouldn't have taken it or they would have had stuff taken off.
Investigators hinted that a combination of too much weight and improper stowage may have resulted in the crash. They also turned up startling background information on the Cessna's pilot, 30-year-old Luis Morales. Court documents revealed Morales pled no contest to crack cocaine possession 2 weeks prior to the crash, and that he was not authorized to fly that type of plane. The August 25th crash claimed the lives of stylists Eric Foreman and Anthony Dodd, pilot Luis Morales, Douglas Kratz from Virgin Records, Gina Smith and Keith Wallace from Blackground Records, makeup artist Christopher Maldonado, bodyguard Scott Gallen, and 22-year-old Aaliyah. Coming up, Aaliyah remembered.
Her spirit will live on in me and all of us.